This video was brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Get top quality razors delivered to your door starting at just $1 a month. Link below in the description. It's safe to say that the original Elgato HD capture card was considered the king of capture cards, especially during the 7th generation of game consoles. But now that the 8th generation of consoles is out, a lot of people are trying to take Elgato's crown, and Elgato is trying to maintain their supremacy with the Elgato HD60. But does it live up to its predecessor? Let's find out. Skip it up and that up! So the next-gen consoles are here, and people want 1080p 60 frames per second from their capture cards. There's been capture cards in the past that have done 720p 60 frames per second, but there are a decent amount of games coming out for the 8th-gen consoles from Sony and Microsoft that are hitting 1080p 60 frames per second, and people want a capture card that's capable of recording that. Now, in the past, I have reviewed the Extreme Cap U3. This is the first 1080p 60 FPS capture card I ever got my hands on. I'll have a link below in the description to the review. And well, this capture card is pretty much crap. It's nice that they use USB 3.0. The preview screen has zero lag on this capture card when you're recording, so you don't have to switch inputs to play the game because there's no lag. But beyond that, the video quality that it captures is horrible. A ton of compression, ton of artifacts. I was very disappointed with this product from AverMedia because I love the Live Gamer Portable. Well, now Elgato is stepping into the 8th gen ring or next gen ring with their Elgato HD60. This card also does 1080p 60 frames per second, or is capable of recording 1080p 60 frames per second. And they're the first card out there that I could say does a good job of capturing the video. The video quality is beautiful. But does it mean this is a must-have? Well, you'll find that out towards the end of the review. But let's actually take a look at the card itself. And I'm going to compare it to my favorite card. I still use this card every day. This is the Live Gamer Portable, which I'm holding upside down. This is the Live Gamer Portable. This records 1080p 30 frames per second, but the software on this card is fantastic. It's very easy to use, and even when people were swearing by the original Elgato, I stuck to this and had zero complaints about it. But let's compare this to the Elgato HD60. This is Elgato's newest offering. Let's take a look at the features first. You have a mic input on the Elgato HD60, a HDMI input, and USB mini jack 2.0. Again, this isn't 3.0. On the other side, you have your HDMI output, and that's pretty much it. You have an indicator light up here, which will let you know that it's looking for an input. It lets you know that you're recording. That's about it. Now, a couple gripes I have with the design of it. First off, one thing that drives me crazy about the Elgato HD60 is that they don't have the HDMI inputs on one side like the Live Gamer Portable. Now, I'm sure they did this because the way they have the jacks on here was easier to make a small PCB or small motherboard for it and make the unit smaller, because it is about an inch smaller than the Live Gamer Portable, as you can see there. But when you have this on your desk, because you have one HDMI cord here, one HDMI cord here, it just kind of looks like a mess on top of your desk. Whereas this, you have all your cords in the back. Say this is like the edge of your table here. All the cords rest off the table, and it looks nice and neat. Not a deal breaker, but it is a little annoyance. The big thing, and this I have to take points off for the Elgato, is that, see this nice beautiful button here on the AverMedia Live Gamer Portable? Not only do they have a bright blue and red indicator light to let you know the status of this, so you can just look at it and know if you're recording. It lets you know if there's any issues, like say it couldn't recognize your hard drive, or it isn't recording, or maybe there's HDCP. That big indicator light's great, but this button makes recording so much easier. Say you have, like I have my computer hooked up to my television, and I have my PlayStation 4 hooked up to my television. If I want to record on the Live Gamer Portal, hit the button once, it turns on the software, wait a beat or two, and make sure you have, obviously you have all your settings in place when the first initial time you install this, but then you hit the button again, and boom, you're recording. You don't have to switch inputs, you're ready to go. Now, this doesn't have a button. I know a lot of people are going to say, Rich, this is also a standalone device. You could pop an SD card in here and do PC-free recording. That's why they have the button. But the button, like I just said, is very useful when you are recording to your PC, and it makes things very convenient. This, when you want to record gameplay, you got to switch your monitor to your computer to open up the software, hit the button with your mouse, then switch back, then you start playing, which is a nuisance, especially say you're recording gameplay footage And there's, whether you're doing a review or just recording a commentary or whatever the case may be, if you want to just get something real quick because something really cool happened, you can't do it on this because you got to switch back to your monitor to your computer to actually turn everything on. This, you hit a button and you're good to go. So it's kind of inconvenient. I'm surprised in 2014 Elgato didn't include a button on this, even though it doesn't have a PC free mode. So it does get points off for that. But other than that, it's a clean, good design. It's really small. You could fit this in your pocket and you're good to go. I mean, flaws aside, it's not a bad design. And it's tiny. It's impressive what this thing can do for the size that it is. But anyway, let's take a look at the interface now. A brief look. I'm not going to go into too much detail because this video would be 3 hours long, of the Elgato capture software that they give you. Then we'll look at some gameplay, and then my boy Big Cheese will talk to you about the streaming features of the Elgato HD60. Then I'll give you my final verdict. So here is the Game Capture HD interface. You have your game audio. You could change the gain. So if you need to increase gain to make it louder, you can. You don't need to. The standard audio settings for where the Game Capture HD60 captures at is fine. It sounds exactly like it does coming out of your game console or computer, and the volume is fine. You have your live streaming settings, which Big Cheese will talk about, and it shows you a preview screen of the game that you're playing. Nothing special there. And here is a quick look at the Game Capture HD settings. It has presets for a whole bunch of popular input devices: PlayStation 4, Xbox One, iPad, Wii U. You see the list there. I'm not going to read them all off to you. Then you have your picture settings, which, you just change contrast, brightness. Audio, again, I personally don't think you need to touch. Profiles is pretty cool in case you have like some funky no-name brand laptop with an HDMI out that you have very specific picture settings, so on and so forth. You could save a profile for the HD60, and when you use that tablet, you could just click a button and boom, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about setting up all those settings every single time. Advanced is if you have an HD TV that isn't recognizing the Elgato HD60, like when you switch over to it to play some gameplay, you see no signal. You tweak with that a little bit. I haven't had an issue with that, so I have nothing really to say about it. I'm sure it works okay. And there you go. Those are the basic features of the Game Capture HD60 interface. Nothing special going on. One thing I forgot to mention, I think this is pretty cool. If you look at the top there where it says output, 1920 by 1080p, let's call it 60 frames per second, 59.94 equates to 60 frames per second progressive. You see it says 40 megabits per second, which is 18.1 gigabytes per hour of footage. That's how much it's going to be on your hard drive per hour when you record gameplay. Now you may think, damn, Rich, that's a big chunk of my hard drive. But think about it though. Actual uncompressed 1080p 60 frames per second footage coming out of your console via HDMI is 2.6 gigabits per second. And they compress it down to 40 megabits per second. You're going to see how good the footage looks. So whatever engineering marvel that Elgato did, I got to applaud them because the video quality that comes out of this little box is impressive. Moving on. Now here is where things, when it comes to the Elgato, start to turn for the worse. Now they give you a whole bunch of sharing features. You could go right to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, email, Apple TV, iPad, iPhone, Movie Maker. They give you the MP4 original format that'll convert it to an MP4 1080p, which, okay, great. They're giving you all these different formats to share in, but look, most people I know are in the same situation I am. We can do it ourselves, and it ends up being easier converting the files yourselves or uploading the files yourselves. It's really just over the top and unnecessary. Now, you're probably saying, hey, Rich, you have nothing else checked except for the MP4 original and MP4 1080p boxes. That's because if you don't, the Game Capture HD60 captures only an MT2S format, which is not compatible with Vegas Pro, which I use. So every time you're done recording footage, it then has to take all the footage that you just recorded and convert it to MP4 for you, which, okay, it's nice it does it for you. You don't have to get some third-party software, but it's just an extra step of time where I have to wait for the footage to be converted before I can actually edit it. And it's another step of compression, which decreases the video quality. It still looks amazingly good, but it's It's a waste of time. It's unnecessary. And I'm surprised that the Elgato HD60 doesn't actually compress video in MP4 natively. I'm surprised they don't give you the option just to do it. As far as I see, unless I'm missing it, this is the only way to get MP4 footage out of the Elgato, is it has to be converted after you capture it, which is a waste of time. Speaking of a waste of time, is how the HD60 organizes and captures your files. Now, with any other capture card I used, you record footage, it has one date-coded file, which is nice, neat, and clean, and then you could dump it into your editing software. Not with the HD60, it gives you a folder full of crap, and if you decided to actually convert it to MP4, it also includes that file. Now you're looking at now, you're seeing, Rich, I see one folder in one video file. What's the big deal? Wait till I click that folder open, you'll see. Bam, man, look at this disaster. A whole bunch of MPEG-2 files, a PNG image, a whole bunch of files with extensions. I don't even know what the hell they do. It's just a mess. All I want, Elgato, is for one video file that I could just dump into my editing software or upload to YouTube, and that's it. What is this? It's like you're trying so hard to be convenient, you're actually making it more inconvenient. Please at least give the option. Maybe some people want all these different files and all these different MPEG-2 files. I just want one video file. Please update your software to give people the option to just get one video file and be able to do what they want with it. This is a mess. But even with all the complaints that I just mentioned, this little capture card records some beautiful footage. Take a look. So flaws in the interface of the Elgato HD60 aside, as you can see, the gameplay footage it captures looks gorgeous. But what about the streaming aspects of the capture card? This is where I'm going to have Big Cheese from YouTube take over and explain to you how those work.
All right, Review Tech, let me stop you right there. I'm going to talk to these guys about the streaming part of the Elgato HD60. Now, when I had the Elgato HD60, the stream limit was 1080p 30 frames per second and not 1080p 60 frames per second. Now, with this card being 1080p 60 frames per second, you would expect it to show 1080p 60 frames per second, right? Wrong. It limits you to 1080p 30 frames per second, which I didn't understand, but whatever. Not only that, when you're streaming, you can tell that it's some lag, it's some freezing up, and it's just not working right. I mean, my internet speed is 150 by 150, and you mean to tell me that when I stream maximum, and the maximum from what I see here is 8 megabytes per second, and I got 150 megabytes per second going up and down, it's a problem. It's a true problem that I'm lagging on this program. Like I said, I tested it with the OBS software, and I tested it with XSplit, and it's giving me the same issues. Matter of fact, it's a lot worse with OBS. It freezes up. Like it literally freezes. Like when I'm talking, you just see me freeze up when I'm talking, and it's crazy how it does that. But that's my input on the streaming side of the Elgato HD60. Back back to you, Review Tech.
So, final verdict time. What do I think of the Elgato HD60 capture card? From a hardware perspective, the video quality is astounding. 1080p, 60 frames per second video, this thing captures. It looks like you're getting it from professional capture equipment. See very little artifacts, even during fast gameplay. It's phenomenal. I don't know how they're doing it with only using a USB 2.0 interface on here. How they must have some insane compression algorithm inside this box to make it happen. It's almost magical how beautiful the video is. But do I recommend that you get an Elgato Game Capture HD60? Honestly, no. Right now, for many reasons. One, YouTube isn't doing 1080p 60 frames per second yet. I know it's going to happen any day now, but it could be another year from now. It could be 2 months from now. And if you have a good 1080p 30 frames per second solution like this, there's just no need to get it at this point. Don't save your hard-earned money unless you don't have a capture card. Well, actually, save your hard-earned money and just get a 1080p 30 frames per second solution. Secondly, the software on the Elgato HD60, the software suite that it comes with, is an absolute mess. They try to give you a ton of features. You could share this everywhere, Facebook, YouTube. It has all these automated features. It's nice, it's cool. They try to make it as convenient as possible, but I almost feel because they tried to include too much, they released a half-baked software suite that's just an absolute mess. I hate the fact that after I'm done recording footage, it has to actually convert the footage to a different format that works in Sony Vegas for me. When you record the footage on top of that too, it just leaves a whole slew of different files. It's not clean, it's not neat. You have to kind of dig through different things to get to the video footage that you captured that you want to use. And it's just unacceptable. Again, when I've used other capture cards, not just this, you hit the record button, it records a file for you. That's all it records. You pick where you want the footage, the destination you want the footage to be stored in, and then you use it and then you put it in Sony Vegas. There's just so much extra legwork that it's just annoying and it's a waste of my time. On top of that, streaming with this card at this point in time, this capture card, whether you want to stream to Twitch or whatever, like Big Cheese said, is borderline useless. There's a lag, there's tons of other issues. I don't understand why there's so many issues with this capture card when it records 1080p 60 frames per second video so beautifully that it has such a tough time streaming video. Streaming is such a big thing now with YouTubers and other people on the internet. You would think they'd want that feature to be perfect and finalized before they actually release this product. So especially if you just stream and you don't capture gameplay for reviews or commentaries and you want to buy this solely for streaming, this thing is a paperweight to you. Get a cup of coffee and rest on there because it's all it's useful for, at least as of now. So Elgato, hardware-wise, this is one of the best capture cards in terms of picture quality that I've ever seen. But because your features are so half-baked, I can't recommend it to everybody. Maybe 6 months from now will be a different ball field. But right now, if you already have a 1080p 30 frames per second solution that you're happy with and it's reliable at streaming, avoid this. It needs a lot more work. All right, folks, this is Rich of Review Tech USA. Make sure to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for supporting my channel. Have a good one.